Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of Where I Went Wrong. And in this edition of Where I Went Wrong, I'll be doing Where I Went Wrong, UFC Vegas 43, Vieira versus Tate. So I know I'm like a whole year late on this, forever late on this video right here. It's supposed to come out like same day or next day or maybe even 2 days after, but it's like a whole week later now. But, holiday season and whatnot, no excuses. But I'm very late on this. By the way, I'm bringing it to you now. I know y'all like, well, I'm gonna watch this. Like, was there a fight card I'm missing or something? But no fight card y'all missing. Fights come back, next weekend, but or the following weekend because it's not the weekend yet because not Saturday. But either way, no fights this weekend, not Saturday or whatnot. But back to what we're doing, where I went wrong, UFC Vegas 43. And it's not a case like I didn't know where I went wrong. I was so like, oh, I feel like I didn't go wrong, or I was not going to admit where I went wrong. It's case I'm like every series I do, I like to be consistent and like to not miss a thing. So even the fact that I'm this late, I still want to have it up there, put it out there for you guys to watch this. It seems like a lot of people enjoy it, so keep it going on. And why slack off or dip off? But very late. But for the people who want to watch it, here it is. So where I went wrong, UFC Vegas 43, and I feel like I didn't go a whole lot wrong. And good thing, my last card I went 4-7, and this card I went 7-4, so I flipped it around. Pretty solid card. So 7-4 is a pretty solid for me, and I feel like it could have been 7-3, but yeah, could have, should have, would have been 8-3, not 7-4. But one of the people that messed up was Kyung Ho Kang, and that's a pick. I'm gonna go to that pick a little bit, really just a little bit. I'm gonna go into very long, but I'm gonna get back to him and say something right now. But I feel like Kyung Ho Kang, he had all the advantages in this fight. Not saying like he was a better grappler, but he was in position to neutralize Ronnie Yaya's grappling, keeping him feet, outstrike him, or maybe mix some takedowns here and there. But whatever reason, he got goofed off twice, at least twice. And that allowed Ronnie Yaya to get to the ground and find success on the feet. If he would have stayed clean, composed, and not get overconfident and get cocky out there and get, sloppy out there, would have been a clear path to victory for him, or would have been a clear decision. Like predict. So, sometimes in predictions, it's not always going to be a case that you made a bad prediction. Sometimes fighters just go out there and they just fight unintelligently. That's the simple fact. You can say, oh, you could pick the right person and they go out there and stuff happens. I think that's the stuff happens. And I think that's a fighter error. It's not a predictor error. It's not a better error. It's a fighter error. And so, like, I did not go wrong that one. I'm not going to say I went wrong that one. Because no matter how you go about it, you can't really say, oh, you can kind of stretch it and try to do something right there. But I can't say any area where I went wrong in there or I wasn't aware of or giving bad knowledge on in that area. And, like, I feel like if he would stay calm and composed, stay sharp, it should have been a pretty easy fight for him. Maybe he could even potentially got a stoppage in there. Potentially. I would say decision would have been the best bet, but he could have got a stoppage if he would have stayed clean and composed instead of getting out there doing spinning stuff and doing sloppy stuff like that. Even after getting made to pay for it, just to go back there and do it again and lose a decision. That's just not very smart for him. But going forward, that's gonna be something you can factor against Kyung Ho Kang. And you definitely not gonna see Kyung Ho Kang rise up to be no big factor in the division, especially when you got mental problems like that, or you have these little mental lapses like that out there. And he already been hovering around the division in the same spot for a long time. So there's a reason why I guess he's in that position. Inactivity and, yeah, a lot of different factors. But now you got to add to mental lapse, and there are unintelligent movements, unintelligent plans in there. But now let's start the card off. I'm not even going to do it like verbatim, but I'm going to do it from where I kind of know of. So I got the Loma Luca Bombi fight where Lupi Godinez came through, and that's a pick I got wrong. Then I got the Sabatini pick. That's the pick I got wrong. I got to stop picking against Sabatini. That's the biggest out of all the England's card. The Sabatini, that's the one I got to work on because I'm with 1-2 on Sabatini now. Yeah, I picked him against Connolly, then picked him against him in the last fight, then picked against him in this fight. So 1-2 on Sabatini. Definitely got to give him much more credit, much more props. Got to give him a lot of credit and props going forward, depending. But in general, though, just flat off, gotta get a man his props. Clap my bicep because I got my hands holding the phone. But either way, gotta give Sabatini his credit. And then the final one, Misha Tate versus Vieira. And I feel like that's a common error I've been having as of late. Like I've been going with the older veteran fighters. I see matches where, they have opportunities to win and have good shots like Vieira versus Edgar. Edgar very much was in that fight and it went to decision. He very much could have edged that decision. But yeah, I've been leaning to these veterans that kind of like, past their prime, past their best by date, but still have enough skill set. I feel like they should be able to beat these guys who I just don't feel are all that great. Like Vieira was not all that great. Marlon Vera, no matter how much you try to size him up, he's not all that great. He's I feel like at best in career, he's gonna be mature into a gate guardian. I don't see this guy as no big title threat. He's gonna be a gate guardian, maybe even a low tier gate guardian. But either ways, Vieira's been disappointing me. Had been disappointing me. Vieira had been disappointing me. And I saw these veterans who had a good chances to beat them, even past their best. They still had a chance, and they did show off their best. Like Miesha Tate was very close. I mean, relatively thinking about it, like was like 3 rounds to 2 or 4 rounds to 1, but a lot of close rounds. It was a case like Vieira just blew out the water. Vieira definitely was landing more flusher shots or doing the more physical damage, but very close fight. And I feel like a takedown 2 could have edged it for Miesha Tate, but she only got 1. And ultimately, it's still a very close fight. And in the last couple rounds, she outworked her. But again, a very close fight. But it went the other way. But I feel like with these fights, you got to kind of lean to the younger fighters unless it's such a big clear edge or unless they're looking fresh and vintage or something like that. And it's not like Frank Edgar had been looking vintage. It's not like Miesha Tate had been looking necessarily vintage. She fought the easiest probably fight for her in the division stylistically. And she looked good. Then she came in here and she fought a matchup that's not the stylistically best, but she I felt like she could have an angle over her because I don't feel like Vieira is the best striker. I feel like she kind of got a size on her. She got power on her. But she's not so super technical fighter or anything, like some super skilled, super technical fighter. She's got big, she got size. And I feel like Miesha Tate's wrestling could be able to find the edge in there. But I don't feel like a big error in that one. But I think you got to find the patterns and you got to find what works. And typically in these fights where it's that tight, the younger fighter will prevail. Like they'll be able to outwork or do this a little bit more, or maybe they'll be able to wear the damage more. And the older fighter they're gonna break down. So it's like typically you got to lean against them. But like say maybe in this upcoming fight, Aldo versus Font, I'm probably gonna lean Aldo. I'm definitely probably gonna lean Aldo because Aldo actually has been looking pretty vintage, been looking his best. The 5 rounds kind of concerns me, but again, it's like a factor. Like you look at a guy past his prime versus a guy that's definitely nowhere near as talented as this guy is, even at this point. But youth typically prevails at once at a certain age point, and you got to kind of lead to that more. But yeah, there's factors. But unless they've been looking vintage or looking really good, and not just off one fight where they fought a tailor-made opponent, you can't really lean to them. So I guess that's weird. But now I'm all over the place. But first fight, I think I got wrong was the Lupita Godinez versus Lupita Godinez versus Loma Lukabami or Lukabunmi. I'm gonna say Lupi versus Loma. Yeah, Lupi. I was really about to lean to Lupi for a second there, but then typically when women go up or fighters go up in weight trying to capitalize on momentum and stuff, like they trying I'm on a momentum, I'm trying to do this, I'm do that. What or fight on short notice, upper weight class, whatever. I'm gonna do it. I'm just feeling myself right now. And when it don't go through, a lot of times they just fall flat in the next fight. And also on Loma's side, it's like Loma, I guess Sam Hughes, her grappling did look a little bit questionable, and I feel like that could be an area where somebody could take advantage of in her next fight, which Lupi ultimately did. But I feel like most of those areas occurred not really because of Sam Hughes. Like it was just, I don't know. Like Sam Hughes didn't really get the fight to the ground. It was like more of a scramble situation. So I was like, her takedown offense really it was not in question. Her grappling was a little bit, but ultimately, like Lupi was able to get her there. Like I said, it was a couple of things. The fact that we hadn't really seen Loma really necessarily be taking advantage in the grappling, or people finding success taking her down like that, and the fact that Lupi had just been coming off of that disappointing fight upper weight class. So you got to factor that, it is a bigger woman. It is a woman that has pretty decent takedown defense upper weight class, and it's on short notice. Now you come down a little bit more time to train for this fight, and now at a smaller weight class with a smaller woman. So it's like, could have leaned to her. Ultimately, I'm not gonna feel too bad about that, but it does give me intel on Lupi Godinez, and does give me intel on Loma. So, but I'm definitely Loma goes in there with a solid wrestler in the division. I'm gonna pick against her, but I definitely don't think there's a case where her wrestling and grappling is in question. It gotta be somebody that has a strength in that area where I feel like they could take advantage of her. I still have a well-rounded skill set. I don't think she's gonna just lose to a one-dimensional wrestler. Let's say this so solid. It's gonna need to be a full mixed martial artist that has a pretty solid wrestling base. And I think those people could take advantage of Loma going forward. I said Carolina, but Lupita Godinez, her going forward, I could definitely see her. And another factor, like let's get to the broadest sense of this fight. Typically, when I go in these matchups, like that tight on paper, and I'm kind of leaning on, I will lean to the more well-rounded fighter. But again, I was factoring too much the fact that Lupita Godinez, try to go up for some more gold and try to ride some momentum, and her momentum got smacked. So I was like, she's going to be coming in here a little bit less confident, a little bit drained a little bit. Yes, she's coming down here fighting a much smaller woman, probably the smallest woman in the weight class, which I said in the video. Like, this is the smallest woman probably in the whole sport, smallest person in the UFC. But yeah, that momentum would have effect on her. And I think thought Loma was riding a better momentum than Loopy. But either way, I should just stuck to when you're dealing with two fighters that are pretty matched up pretty evenly, you lean to one that has the more well-rounded one because that striking can be relatively close, or maybe this person striking they still winning pretty clear in the striking, but they're not running through them on the striking. And you got a person that can wrestle, whereas Loma's only gonna strike. She's gonna probably put you in the Muay Thai clinch, try to knee you, kick you, punch you, but that's about it. She's not going to try to take you to the ground or do anything on the ground. And Lupita Godinez had a clear advantage in the grappling. It wasn't a case of where she just a little bit better. She was clearly much, much better in that area. And in the fight where it's tight on paper or tight, on paper, lean to a person who could take it elsewhere or look to take it elsewhere and throw that in the mix. And a pretty competitive fight was a clear decision for Lupita Godinez. She was able to mix it up and get her hand raised. So I should have stuck to my basic when it's a tight matchup, lean to the more well-rounded fighter. Yeah. Then the next one, Sabatini versus Tucker Lutz. Pat Sabatini versus Tucker Lutz. With this one versus Sabatini versus Tucker Lutz, I just feel like I still kind of it was a matter of fact, even to this point, I'm still not super sold on Sabatini, but I gotta give the man his credit as far as his wrestling is much, much better than I thought it was. And Lutz is not as good as I thought his wrestling was. And Sabatini's grappling is very, very clean. I still haven't really seen him striking too much at a high level. It's so much here in between. And I'm pretty sure it's not all that great, but he's gonna definitely need a bigger step up. Where unless like for me to pick against him again, I'm gonna need to see a guy has really solid BJJ, solid, very solid takedown defense, and pretty educated striking and some good fight IQ. So it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be good bit for. It's gonna be need to be someone really solid for me to pick against Sabatini. And I think that's probably not gonna come to like top 15, maybe top 20 before I pick against Sabatini. Like so, I picked against him twice, got made to pay for it twice, and now I need to go all in with Sabatini until they give him someone that can truly test him and draw him out of his grappling and test that striking. Because until I see someone that can truly get him to strike and neutralize his grappling enough that they could keep him on the feet and see that area of his, I'm not picking against him. Like the guy looks so clean on the grappling so good, his wrestling looks so good, his transition looks so good, his control looks so good, composed, very smart at it, position over submission. That's always a good thing. That's good. Going to ride you up the division and maintain you for a very long time in any division in the sport and any league in the sport. So I'm just saying a lot of good stuff from him, and I'm sold on him for now. So I definitely went wrong in the area, but I think I felt like Tucker Lutz could keep us on the feet and look to test him there, but he got blown out on the grappling, got blown out flat out on the grappling, and I think the little areas where he did get a strike were too far in between, like too short, not a lot. And now, so Sabatini going hard on him in the future picks. Then again, I went to the main event. I feel like Miesha Tate had a good shot in this one, but again, you're going with an older fighter, even though she still can have an edge in there. Most times, it's not going to play through, and the younger fighter's going to. And also in the decision fight, Vieira does have pretty decent takedown defense, but I feel like Miesha Tate still was a much more technical wrestling, could get some wrestling shots on her. But again, an older fighter who's not necessarily in their prime, and you're going to struggle there and not find the same success. So you got to lean to the younger fighter typically in those matches, unless they're looking truly vintage, like I'm saying. But yeah, that's pretty much the card right there as far as where I went wrong. I think it has a couple good picks in here. The Levy fight, I know a lot of people were high on Levy. I was like, Levy, who he beat, and that's it showed who he beat. He ain't beat no one. And Robert Garcia was actually able to do better than I thought as far as wrestling. He was 7 takedowns to 3, so he did out wrestle him a whole lot. I knew that his wrestling could be a factor, but I didn't know it would be that big a factor. I thought striking would be a bigger factor than it was, but actually it was his wrestling. So, by the way, I knew Levy was not as sharp as people were thinking he is. He'd been beating straight up bums and even struggling with those bums. But going forward, I'm not really super high on Levy's future. I'm not super high on Rafa Garcia's future in the UFC, but both decently aged guys that could get better. But I'm not saying all these guys really doing much. Might likely pick against both of them in their future fights. Definitely probably going to pick against Levy in his future fights. Rafa Garcia, probably going to pick against him in his future fights. But, yeah. Good pick on me right there. That's one. And then there was like a couple other good picks, but I'm not even going to go all into the picks because this is where I went wrong, not where I went right. If you want to see where I went right, just scroll to the videos, find them, and yeah, and then next time I give it a little bit more, but this is like a late video anyway. But next time I'll give more intel because I'll be on time with it. But that's the video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.